September 16, 1943, over the Solomon Islands, Captain James "Jimmy" Swett watches his wingman die. Below him, the Pacific is a tranquil blue, but up here, at 20,000 feet, it's hell. His face is tense, sweat beading on his forehead despite the cold. Through his gun sight, a Japanese Zero banks, impossibly agile. Swett grips the control stick, thumb hovering over the red button. He fires. The deafening rattle of 6.50 caliber machine guns echoes in the cockpit, but the tracers streak wildly around the Zero, a useless, scattered pattern. He slams his fist against the cockpit wall, a mask of fury and frustration. The untouched Zero banks and delivers a lethal burst into his wingman's plane. Lucky Lucy. A fireball erupts where his friend was just moments ago. Swett's horrified face is reflected in the canopy glass. This is the reality for Corsair pilots in 1943. Gun camera footage shows it all. Tracers flying everywhere but the target. Statistics flash across the screen. A kill ratio of just 3.2 to 1. An average of 890 rounds for a single kill. As Swett limps home in his lone Corsair, defeated over a vast, empty ocean, one thing is clear. Something is terribly wrong. Back at Torquemada Airfield, the mood is funereal. The problem isn't courage. It's not the Corsair's raw power. It's a simple, deadly flaw. Gun harmonization. The 6 machine guns in the wings are set to converge their fire at 1,000 feet. In the chaos of a dogfight, that's like trying to hit a moving dartboard with a shotgun blast from a football field away. The bullets spread out, creating a cone of death with a harmless or empty space right in the center where the enemy plane should be. In heated briefing rooms, pilots sit with sullen, disbelieving faces as officers point at complex diagrams on chalkboards. The engineers insist moving the convergence point any closer will create so much stress it could rip the Corsair S-wings clean off. Pilots are dying, trapped by a theory. As the dejected pilots return from their patrols, one man sees things differently. Sergeant Mickey McCarthy, a mechanic in his mid-20s with grease-stained hands and a quiet intensity, watches them. He doesn't see heroes or victims of fate. He sees a mechanical problem he can fix. Alone in the maintenance tent late at night, scribbling calculations on a scrap of paper by lantern light, McCarthy works. He uses a simple wrench and a ruler to measure the gun angles on a static plane. And in that quiet, greasy tent, he has a silent, practical eureka moment. McCarthy's plan is insane, simple, and completely unauthorized. He's going to reharmonize the guns himself. His target, 250 feet. At that range, all 6 guns would fire a solid spear of lead, a tight, fist-sized pattern that could tear a plane apart. But it means bending the rules, and bending the metal itself. He knows he can't do it alone. He needs an accomplice. Under the wing of another Corsair, he finds Corporal Eddie Wilkins. He shows him the crude sketches on the scrap of paper. Wilkins looks around nervously, fully aware of the consequences, then gives a grim nod. Their conspiracy begins. Under the cover of darkness, they push Captain Swett's personal Corsair, Daisy May, into a remote hangar bay. For hours, they work. Sparks fly as McCarthy welds custom, reinforced steel brackets for the gun mounts. His hands are steady and precise, using a custom-made wooden jig to carefully adjust the angle of each .50 caliber barrel. The new brackets are crude, brutal, and strong, nothing like the polished factory parts. They are a statement of defiant ingenuity. At dawn, they roll the plane to the beach for a test fire. McCarthy gives a signal. Wilkins, in the cockpit, squeezes the trigger for a short burst. The guns roar with a thunderous clap. McCarthy watches the tracers form an impossibly tight beam, a solid line of fire streaking out over the water. The reinforced mounts hold firm. They look at each other, wide-eyed, with a mix of terror and triumph. It worked. Just then, Captain Swett arrives for his mission. He stops dead, his eyes fixed on the visibly different gun angles on his beloved Daisy May. "Mick, Carthy, ... he says, his voice low and dangerous. "What in God's name did you do to my plane?" McCarthy snaps to attention, staring straight ahead. "Sir, I gave you a fighting chance." Swett looks from the modified guns to McCarthy's determined face, then up to the empty sky where so many of his friends have died. He makes a choice. He climbs into the cockpit. "If this gets me killed, Sergeant," he says, with a grim resolve, "I'll haunt you." The test of McCarthy's illegal modification comes just minutes into the patrol. A swarm of Zeros appears. Swett picks his target, ignores everything he was taught in training, and pushes his Corsair into a screaming dive. He holds his fire at 500 yards. Then, 400, he keeps closing the distance. Through his gun sight, the Zero grows larger and larger until it fills the entire frame. At 250 yards, it's huge. He presses the trigger. It's not just a series of hits, it's obliteration. A solid rope of tracers slams into the Zero, and the aircraft simply comes apart in a millisecond, disintegrating in a cloud of metal and smoke. Inside the cockpit, Swett's expression shifts from stunned shock to pure ecstasy. Holy ... it works. It actually works. He yells into his radio. When Swett lands, a crowd has already gathered. He jumps from the cockpit onto the wing, grabbing a startled McCarthy in a triumphant hug. "5, I got 5, with half my ammo left." Pushing through the crowd is the squadron commander, Major Britt, with the furious engineering officer, Colonel Millington, right behind him. This is a direct violation of regulations. Millington is livid. "You'll all be court-martialed for this." Major Britt doesn't answer. He looks at the gun camera footage showing the disintegrated Zero. He looks at the hopeful, awestruck faces of his other pilots. Then he turns to the grease-stained sergeant. He makes his call. "Sergeant McCarthy," he says, his voice steady, "can you modify every plane in the squadron by dawn?" The results were instantaneous and revolutionary. Within a week, the entire Solomon Islands Corsair fleet was modified with McCarthy's field expedient fix. The kill ratio didn't just improve, it skyrocketed. A graph showing the squadron's performance would have shot straight up, from a dismal 3-1 to a staggering 11-1. The hunters became the prey. Gun camera footage now showed Zeros and Betty bombers exploding with single, short bursts. A captured Japanese diary entry said it all. The Corsairs now have a concentrated death. Avoid at all costs. Months later, Mickey McCarthy, now a staff sergeant, is quietly supervising a team of mechanics. He's a legend to the pilots, a hero who saved their lives. But to himself, he's still just a sergeant doing his job. He never received a medal for his unauthorized innovation. After the war, he went home to Boston, opened a garage, and rarely spoke of what he did. But his lesson echoes through history. True courage isn't just about following orders into battle. Sometimes, it's about having the courage to challenge the orders that make the battle unwinnable. It's about seeing a problem and refusing to accept that good people have to die because of a bad design. One sergeant, with a wrench, a radical idea, and the guts to defy the book, saved countless lives and changed the face of aerial combat in the Pacific forever. In memory of the innovators, the mechanics, the sergeants, the ones who changed the war from the ground up. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, Please consider liking this video and subscribing for more hidden histories. We'll see you next time.